healing with an eye toward what are the things that we can do today to facilitate healing both for ourselves, for each other, and for the planet. Thank you to all of you who join us as Chi contributors. As you know, this free Friday webinar is available to everyone at no cost for 48 hours the entire weekend. So if you feel as moved by these conversations as we are, please do feel free to share them with everyone in perpetuity, but especially over the weekend when we're able to provide them at no cost at all. For those of you who help to support our beautiful nonprofit initiative, the Consciousness and Healing Initiative, with a tax-deductible donation of $9 a month or $108 a year, you know that you're able to access this and all the webinars that we have had with so many incredible leading lights in healing, scientists, thought leaders, teachers, healing practitioners. And we often send you tidbits of beautiful information from these teachers, as well as meditations in your inbox every month. We're deeply, deeply grateful for your support. If you're interested in learning more about how you can support the Consciousness and Healing Initiative, keep these webinars going, please do check in the chat where we will pop in the link on how you can learn more and become a Chi contributor. And we have here folks coming in from Maryland, Portugal, Los Angeles, West Wales, Maine, Montana, Connecticut, Santa Rosa, Phoenix, Institute of Noetic Sciences with us here. Aaron says hello from Institute of Noetic Sciences, Norway, Canada. My goodness, so great to see you all. And I'm so, so thrilled to introduce our very special guest today, Jen Ögren. I will tell you a little bit about Jen. Jen Ögren, MFT, non-binary singular pronouns, this is how I will refer to Jan, Tay, and Tem, is a licensed psychotherapist, spiritual explorer, and international author. For over 30 years, Day has worked in the psychotherapy field, helping people change their neurological programming and recover from trauma. Jan was a subject matter expert for the California Board of Behavioral Science Examiners for 12 years. Tay has apprenticed with Native American teachers for over 40 years, learning to walk in both the normal 3D world, you could say, and in the mystical realms. Tay works closely with the Institute of Noetic Sciences, combining spirituality and science, and leads workshops in psychological shamanism, which is the blending of psychological and shamanistic teachings specifically designed for Western culture. Jen is the author of Dividing Worlds, Dragon Magic, Amazing Fables for All Ages, which offers life-changing wisdom in the traditional form of storytelling, and Celebrate Life, Poetry, Prose, and Photography, in honor of Jan's 100-year-old father's philosophy of life. You will be sharing links in the chat. Tay's got a website, www.janogren.net, that you can check out, and we'll be sharing more resources later. But Jan, thank you so much for joining us today for an incredible conversation on the healing power of love.
Thank you. Yeah. And I just like to open with, connecting, because this is an amazing resource we have that we can connect all over the globe through this webinar, but it also is nice to just breathe and center wherever you are. And I want to dedicate this time to the healing of consciousness, because that includes the healing of all the strife and the ways that we disconnect from each other and nature in this world. So let's take a breath and just setting in a collective intention to expand the love and healing in this world and the health of all beings. And I'm thrilled to be supporting Chi and all that Shamani and everyone's doing. And greetings to everyone who's joining. I'm really glad that you're here experiencing maybe for many times or for the first time here.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for the opening to the healing power of love so that all of us may benefit. We all come to our work with a story, something that led us to the work that we do. And I think, Jan, it's always useful to start on you walk, as you say, in beautiful and connected worlds, although we often find ourselves thinking that they're disconnected. In fact, as you well know, having studied shamanism for 40 years, sometimes the connection with the spirit world in Western psychology has often been considered pathological in some ways.
Mhm.
That shamans were special, in some way. But there was always this intimation in Western psychology that shamans were, for lack of a better term, a little crazy, right? Just
Mhm.
like not quite of this earth, but yet still functional. I'm curious, first of all, what brought you to the work that you do and what you've noticed about the way that we view this intersection of shamanism and psychology today.
Yeah, well, definitely starting with the personal stories, I think is good because that really explains how I got here. So I was extremely blessed to have the chance to study with Mescalero Apache medicine man, and that's an indigenous tribe in southwest of the U.S. And Red Eagle was his name. He introduced me to shamanism, which was a natural thing for him growing up with his grandfather teaching him. And it meant so much to me. And I loved him like an adopted father, and he called me his kid. But I was hesitant to let him know how special he was to me because I had all these fears of rejection and fears of looking stupid or and he always seemed to be like looking for the next best apprentice who tended to be a man. And I didn't feel, like I fit that model. So for 11 years, I studied with him and learned how to journey into other worlds. And just to, put out a definition of shamanism, there are many of them, but the one that I used is that it's the connection between the physical and non-physical realms, the energetic and spiritual, for the benefit of individuals and the community. It's definitely within a community. It's not a religion, it's a practice. So he taught me that. And for 11 years, we kind of played a little hesitant distance. He really didn't talk to me about how important I was. I didn't tell him because, well, I was scared, and he had a lot of hesitancy. He had a lot of psychological baggage, having grown up with a lot of prejudice and all. But then on September 16th, 1992, his wife, Badger Woman, called me and said he was in ICU. His heart muscle had actually given out, and he was only 55 years old. So I got the next plane to Kentucky, where they were living at that time, took my crystals and feathers, and prepared to help him heal. But instead, he actually died. And his grandfather, who was his teacher in the physical realm and continued in the spirit realm, came to me. And he was very strong spirit. And this was his grandson. And he helped me walk through the practice of cleansing Red Eagle's spirit. And so that it was ready to release from his physical body. And instead of the chaos of the ICU, hospital, that was the reality of his ending, his life. He was basically, his spirit was at peace and it was whole. And so, I helped that his spirit leave his physical body. And then that evening, his grandfather came to me and said, "Would you like to connect with Red Eagle?" And I'm like, "Yes, absolutely." It was a terrible blow to have him die. And he taught me how to leave my physical body and completely go into the spirit realm. So I did that so that I could see Red Eagle again. And it was Red Eagle, but it wasn't the one that I had interacted with for 10 years. He was just pure love. And he had none of the baggage, none of his fears of rejection, because he'd been estranged from all four of his biological children. None of them followed the medicine way. That's why he started teaching whites. And That had been terribly painful for him, but that was all gone now. He was a spirit, and we connected together in a love that was just so profound. And when I came back to my body, it was so clear to me that this brain of mine and, all my past trauma that I held in my body prevented me from connecting on a very deep level through love with people both alive and in spirit.
Mm.
So that was the beginning of my developing psychological shamanism.
Wow. Through the desire for connection with a wonderful teacher who had passed on. So a very organic, process, a very authentic and organic process for you.
Yes, and then his grandfather continued teaching me, and I had presented at a international conference on shamanism, and I'd seen all these, presentations on how spontaneous healing happens, which is definitely something that she studies and looks at, is how the healing energy of the universe of people can be used for physical healing. And I thought, that's really amazing and wonderful, but what about psychological healing? What about our psychological wounds and traumas and reactive patterns that we hold, our anxieties? So as I was driving back from the conference, I was talking to Red Eagle's grandfather, as I often do when I drive. And he said, well, of course you can use that because your trauma is in your brain, so we can heal your brain. We can do that. What would you like to be healed from? And I kind of paused and I thought, I always have an underlying fear and anxieties. Fear of being rejected, fear of being stupid, fear of not doing things right. And it just always was this underlying fear. So I said, well, it would be nice to not have this fear and, anxiety. And so he said, fine, would you like me to take it away? Because he only does things with permission. So I said, yes. And then it was gone. It was just like all this fear that had been in my body and my mind and my being was gone, just a spontaneous healing. And I realized that connection with the spirit realm can help heal the psychological wounds that we have. And so the more I opened up to the spiritual by letting go of my old wounding and old patterns, the more I could connect and the more I could allow the spirits to heal me. So it's this ever expanding cycle.
Wow.
And I've done this with others. And it's truly a way of transforming consciousness.
It's amazing. And so many nuggets that you just shared about how we can more deeply connect with spirit. I'm sure many of us, and I want to remind folks, for those of you who are joining us on Zoom today live, you do have an opportunity to ask Jan questions. All you need to do is go to the Q&A box, which is at the bottom of your screen, and we will get to those questions a little bit later in the hour toward the end, but we will definitely leave time for them. But I suspect, Jan, that a question that is on many people's minds is, how do we do this? How do we more deeply connect with the spirit world? Is it necessary for us to fully leave our bodies? And one thing that I know you and I have been in conversation with is that you not only lead workshops on how people can communicate with spirit, but also workshops for spirits on how to connect with people, which I personally find fascinating. And, I understand that you might even have a bit of a slide presentation to kind of share with us. And I am curious about whether you do these slide presentations with the spirit realm and how you approach the teaching. But, please, let's dive in further.
Okay, well, great. Well, I do have some slides because I want to walk people through and all. So I'm going to share here my screen.
Great.
And so I'm just beginning with kind of a review of what Shamini already said. And by the way, for those, I know some people are joining with just audio, so I will repeat. But please watch this again when you have a chance. The slides are kind of fun because one of the things that I really like about psychological shamanism, working with spirits, is the laughter and the joy. So you know, I do things with joy, and so some of the slides I have are kind of cute and funny. But this is just to re-emphasize that, you know, I am certified in many ways through the professional physical world. And I like to say that because that shows that I have some basis for when I go beyond. And as Shamini said, unfortunately, too often, you know, people can't talk to the doctors and psychologists about hearing spirits or psychic phenomenon for fear of being crazy. And so I think of myself as a licensed psychotherapist who encourages people to hear voices. And I also just brought in, a picture here of Red Eagle and his wife, Badger Woman, just to appreciate, because he transformed my life. He lived his way of being, and incredible stories about him, which I wish I could tell more, but that's him. And as I said, shamanism is the practice of accessing physical and non-physical realms for individual and community healing. And then psychological shamanism is the shamanism best suited for Western cultures, which is focused on the mind as a primary tool in exploring the world. Because if you think about that, it's research and really focusing on the mind more than nature or using drumming or other traditional practices. So like any shamanic tool, the mind needs to be treated with respect and care because it has the ability to cause devastating destruction and create profound innovations and enlightenment. So psychological shamanism is really a practice of being able to clear the mind so that we can be in the best health and loving space. So the principles of psychological shamanism is the love fountain and psychological healing, which I'm going to deal with today. It's also being authentic, which is a word that I call gath, which is guided on your path, because English doesn't have a lot of language for spiritual like some other languages do. So I created the word gath for that. And then creating healthy relationship with spirits and natural energies, which are workshops I've done, which I'll just briefly touch on today, because there's a lot to cover. So the psychological healing is what I'm referring to that Red Eagle's grandfather did for me when he just took away the fear that I had. So it's healing past trauma, it's activating my natural self-nurturing behaviors, and it's using that ability of the spirits to help. And love is what is the basis of the universe. And by the way, too, she has wonderful resources and includes blogs. So there's a blog that they put on of mine about love that you can read more of, and it's on my blog too. But I like to call the energy of love in love. And I kind of like the way it just sounds, in love. And it's really talking about an expanded love, because we overuse the concept of love and use it quite casually, like, oh, I love chocolate, I love a movie, I love a good book. And we also use it to mean something incredible, like loving a child that I die for, or a partner, or a cause. So I like to distinguish the energy of love from just the common everyday kind of love. So I call it in love, because there's another problem with how we talk about love, is that in the English language, it pretty well kind of demands a direct object. So I can say that I can go out for a walk without specifying where I go, but I can't say I'm going to go out and love, because it's like, well, what are you going to love, or who are you going to love? And so we objectify love and we externalize love a lot. So love is supposed to be something we get from externally. Somebody loves us, or we're, you know, and we have to be the best we can to be lovable. But that causes a lot of problems. And I'll get into that in a minute. But I want to talk more about love, this in love, and give you an experience of that. So I'm going to stop sharing and come back here.
Love that. Yeah, I think most people probably attending read your beautiful blog. And I love the way you describe love as an energy. So yeah, very excited for the practice.
Yeah. So what I wanted to do is use a bunch of experts on love, all of you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to think about love, to feel love, and to get a sense of what it feels like. And then when you're ready, when something comes to you, go ahead and chat. Put it in the chat, any words, any feelings that associate with love, and get the most profound sense of love that you can. And just breathe. And not only do I want you to, think of some words that connect, but I just want you to bring in that experience. If nothing else, for this webinar, to just breathe in love from, as I said in my blog, love oftentimes it's around animals and kids and death also. So love can have some very tender feelings.
Yeah, beautiful. See some wonderful things coming in on the chat here.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, actually, yeah, I can re-expansion, joy, union, wonderful connection. Yeah.
Togetherness, safe, warm, held.
Mm-hmm.
Yellow and sunshine.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, I love that. And also the feeling flowers. Okay. Well, so I've done
connection beyond thought. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So I'll let you see that. And I'm going to go back to share, like I promised you, some funny slides. So this is what I call the love fountain. And I've created these that it's the sense that there is an abundance of love. And one of the things that I also talked about in the blog is that we tend to practice sports, we practice language, we know that we need to study things, but we don't tend to think about practicing love. And yet it's usually, for most people, it's a very vital part of their lives. So this is a way to practice in love. And it comes from the universe. There's an abundance, because in all my practice, and when I do leave the physical realm and go into the spiritual, and I go in and I connect with what I call healthy spirit guides and the loving universe, it is love. It is this abundance, and it's a feeling. And so it's readily available. And what I like is the idea of a fountain where it goes up and I can fill myself, and I fill myself with abundance. And this is in direct contrast to what I call the common love pose, which, if you can't see the pictures, the first one was basically just kind of looked like a tree with all these hearts coming out and expanding. And this one looks like it's a hose. It has a, focus, and the love starts out as hearts, but by the time it gets shot at somebody, it looks more like arrows that can hurt. And we do that a lot. We feel like we should pump out love to fix others so that they will shoot love back to us. And it's that conditional feeling of love where we have to work at love, and we have to give it to the right people and then get it from the right people. And like I said, you can think a lot about this. There's a lot of meaning in it that I won't go into now, but it's just the idea. And then one of the things about the love fountain is when you're practicing it, and when we practice it later today, you can see where you have blocks. Because one of the things practicing the love fountain taught me how I would try to pull it from the abundance. Like, okay, well, if I'm really good, then I can get it this way. But really, it's about opening to it. Or I used to think I needed it from others, or I didn't think I was deserving. And there's a common one that says, well, you shouldn't, you don't want to be too egotistical or loving yourself too much. And then there are times when I tried to be, connect with love, like I talked through the Red Eagle. I spent 11 years not truly connecting with him in the way I could. So cleaning up through psychological healing, cleaning up all these wounds then allows me to come back into the joy and oneness of in love and the love fountain.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So now I want to lead us in a meditation so everyone can experience it for themselves. And I just give an example of, for me, I know everyone learns in a different way. Some people learn visually, kinesthetically, auditorily, and so make this your own. It's one of the principles of psychological shamanism, be authentic for who you are. So for me, it's a more physical than visual. It's feeling it coming up my body, feeling it in my heart, feeling expansiveness. I feel my shoulders going back. I breathe more. And to fill up, what I do is I think of times that I felt love. And this could be oftentimes for my cats. They greet me with purring, a connection with a person, with a sunset, with nature. Oftentimes, a lot of times people feel the love in nature, and I feel it a lot from spirits, but you don't have to go into the spirit realm to feel love. It's right there. And it's just taking it. And so what I'll do to fill up my fountain is I would take an experience, like maybe somebody was really appreciative of when I helped them, or when I shared a meal from my garden, or I'm quite the ecstatic gardener. And so I'll share a peach with someone and I'll see them eat it. And I can feel their love. And so I'll take those experiences in and it fills me up. So now I want you to imagine your own love fountain. And by the way, if there's any confusion on a practical level, maybe you can check Shamani to see, but any general questions have later. But I just want to make sure this is, clear that what we're going to do is just simply envision a love fountain for yourself and then fill it up. And the first thing I want you to do is to get a sense, and like I said, this can be a visual. You can vision a vase, you can vision a fountain. I'm leaving this up here so you can see it. You can feel it, you can hear it. It can be like beautiful music that increases in sound, or it can be whatever fits for you, but vision something, feel it, and then check, what's your level of love right now inside you? Where's your level of love? Is it kind of low? Are you going through some trauma? Is it difficult? Is it hard to feel love for yourself? Are you very self-critical? So that's one of the things about having this love fountain, is dealing with the inner critic. So just check, is your love fountain kind of a third of the way filled, half? Most of the way? Is it overflowing? And, just check, make a note of that. Because, I am a scientist, so I do love doing these little tests to just, check out and for yourself. And now take a breath and open up to love. And by the way, just to let you know, the spirits are here with me. So in whatever way you connect with the divine, open up, because that to me is a tremendous source of love from God, Goddess, Allah, Yahweh, from the nature, from Kuan Yin, from anything that you feel, spirit guides, your own mind, your mentorship, somebody who's mentored you, who loves you, ancestors. Let in the love. Think about love. Breathe. And this is something you can always come back to. You can do it whenever you want. And I'm just, as you're breathing in the love, I'm just going to tell you a little story about when I started this. Because I'd been at a conference where they were talking about how people were disconnected and had less connection to people that they could share deeply who they were. And my heart hurt because I thought there's less love in the world, there's less connection. And love is, as people chatted before, a way of connecting. And so I thought, well, I try very hard to increase love through my work as a therapist and through workshops and all, but really the way I know I can increase the love is if I bring it into myself more. And so I started this practice with the love fountain. And at that time, it was pretty low for me. I really felt like I wasn't deserving, I wasn't good enough. And so I did a lot of healing, I did a lot of practice, and I spent years every morning, and especially before I would go to work, because I recommend this for anyone in the healing profession, which I know many of you are, to be able to fill yourself up with love and acceptance. And I'm using the example of the love fountain, but actually these fountains can be a fountain of acceptance, of confidence, of courage, of whatever. Deserving, that's a good one, In fact, just in case any of you are running into some deserving blocks, I want to say you deserve love. And you have my permission to feel wonderful about yourself. And I know that that's something that society does give me as a presenter and as a therapist, this special ability to have the authority to say, yes, you deserve love. So I like to use that. I like to use my authority, authority with quotes, because everyone's their own self-authority. But I like to say that, to just say, yes, you deserve love. You're deserving, you're worthwhile. And so I did that for myself. So I got to the point where every day I would fill myself up until I'm overflowing. And then it was much easier because you can see in the picture that I drew that the love flows out and reaches others. And it's so different from how I used to try to force people to feel good about themselves. Now I just feel good about myself and I share it. And one day I had this experience where this devastating event happened, and it just sent me basically to my bed, and I was just crashed and in tears and feeling terrible. And I just felt like I didn't know how I could go on. I didn't know how I could face the day. And I laid there for 20 minutes, maybe half an hour. And as I was breathing, I suddenly realized I was filling with love. And I realized that I was, kind of, because oftentimes, quite frankly, I like to meditate in a way that's easy. So I often meditate when I'm in bed, I'm comfortable. And so there I was in a position where I used to, I regularly would fill myself with love, and I was doing it unconsciously. And I was thrilled because I realized that because of this daily practice, I had finally gotten to a place of having it as a habit. I had made the love fountain a habit. And it felt very good. So now I want to come back to you. Stop sharing and come back and go ahead and if you're feeling like it, go ahead and chat. Now, it looks like some people are already, might be chatting more, but check, where are you on your level? We checked before, and it's okay. Some people have increased, some might have decreased, because you can hit some blocks when you try to think of love. You can hit some pain. So your love might have decreased, it might have stayed the same, might not have been, you might not have felt comfortable wherever you are to have even done the meditation, which is fine.
I see there's some beautiful comments here. My love was low, but then I saw them as red hearts and started to ask my guides to fill me up. Another person writes, has tears of gratitude. One person writes, more pain. So maybe we can address that. Another,
Mhm.
same. So lots of different experiences as we begin this practice. And you spoke a little bit to this, Jan, in terms of what you experienced when you first started. Help us understand this journey, because it's different for all of us, right?
Yeah, yeah. And also, I want to bring in the spirits helping because, yeah, more pain. Yes, definitely. I feel for you. And, I appreciate your courage to feel that and share it. And that's where I'm going to go back to sharing because the spirits really helped. And as I said, by spirits, I mean that broadly, you know, in whatever sense, because I was muscular Apache trained. I think of spirits and spirit guides and nature and all, but it fits. You don't have to believe in anything more than a loving universe or the energy, the biofield. Our biofield that surrounds us is actually a healing, loving source. But just to share, like Shamini said, I call myself a reverse channel because most channels channel the spirits for humans. But I actually channel the human world for spirits because spirits want to connect with humans. That's my experience. And I often get people's spirit guides show up to me and say, please, I want to help heal. I want to help this human, but they're not listening to me. And so doing the workshops and stuff, one day when I was preparing, the spirit said, will you please show humans what it's like for us to try to connect with humans? Because oftentimes people think that, oh, well, if it's a spiritual, then it's all powerful and it can get past our defenses. But
Hmm.
unfortunately, our mind is very good. So let me show you here what that looks like from the spirit realm. And again, it's kind of I do these funny drawings. So does that show up on the screen there?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's basically a head. It has a big ear, and that's supposed to be a person. And the little bubbles around, the little kind of clouds is words. It's like, wait, I'm not hearing anything. Why
Hmm.
won't something connect with me? I'm not worthwhile. I can't see anything. And so oftentimes we're so connected. And then there's that jagged one that if I see something, does that mean I'm crazy?
Right.
What does it all mean? And I want proof. And then the blue around it is the spirits that are saying, hi, love to help you. I'm here. Love you. You're special. But we tend not to hear it. And I do this myself too. I still, after 40 years apprenticeship, I will still my guides will tell you, I will get blocked and I will start, especially being self-critical. And that like what looks like kind of a nose is actually just the narrow vision that oftentimes people were like, I will only accept this, very narrow band. And it's harder for spirits to connect. So what they say is that the more we can fill ourselves with love, the easier it is for them to connect with us.
Hmm.
So now this is a picture that shows, big heart, love inside, and not so strong boundaries around us, nature, connecting to earth, connecting to the sky. And then the spirits are able to connect more, accept with love. So I just want to encourage you now. And again, I love that this is something people can watch and you can pause it. If you watch it again or do it on your own, but take a moment because the spirits are here and they'd love to heal whatever is happening with you. They love you to bring in more love. So take a breath. And one of the things I do want to say that spirits, the ones I work with, the universal love is love. If you open up and you hear something critical, That's probably your mind, or it's spirits that you don't want to deal with. And so only if it's loving, open up to it. And just feel that love. And take a moment for anything that came up with the love fountain that you'd like healed, so that you can open up to more love. And breathe that in. And one of the things I love to connect people with is that there's so many paths to love, to connection, to healing. That's what's wonderful about Chi, because Chi is an organization that's expanding that, making it available to more people. So it's a wonderful organization that I've been supporting for, well, since I discovered it. I met Shamani and immediately fell in love. So with Chi and with her and all that she offers. So now I'll go to coming back. So wanted to allow some time for questions, and to just put in one reference that I also, as I said, I work with the Noetic Sciences, the Institute of Noetic Sciences, and I've done a webinar there that's available through their website on connecting to spirits.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, and so I think Jason can share the link there, because there's a lot of stuff I'm not covering here. And I just, like I said, just make sure as you're connecting with a physical teacher, with spirit guides, that it's something that you feel good about. And as Redigo, my teacher, used to say, don't treat spirit guides, human or other, as though they're all-knowing or above you. Always go with yourself as the source. So if you feel good working with someone or some spiritual entity, then go with it. If it makes you happy and feel good and smile and full of love, and if it doesn't, then please find something that does fulfill you.
Yeah, thank you for all of that, Jen. And I know that we're just scratching the surface, and I just have to say, when they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, even with the words that were on there, the pictures that you shared, I thought were so striking and really spoke to the experience, all the fears, the doubts, the things that get in the way. And it really helped us understand how consciousness and energy play a role in this, how those dynamics work out. And, the saying that you mentioned in your blog, the beautiful Rumi quote that, your job is unburden yourself from all the things that keep you from being love, which is, who we truly are. We get in our own, and you've touched on, I know we've just started touching on the surface of so much wisdom that's here. But what I love is that you're reminding us that this is available to all of us, that you don't have to necessarily be born with special gifts to connect with spirit, to be in even more full embodiment of love. But we are already all that, right? And the connection with the spirit world can help us embody and feel love, because as one person wrote in the chat, when they feel the connection with spirit, the sense of love is so, and I think she used the word pure, that, there's just a little bit less of the human mind stuff, the contractions that can get in the way. So, and like you said, it doesn't mean that all spirit is always benevolent, and it doesn't mean that they necessarily know better than we do. They could certainly be an aid. We have a lot of really wonderful questions, a lot of them to the spiritual connection. So if you don't mind, we'll go ahead and begin with these.
Absolutely.
The first question is, how do I call in my ancestors and guides without also calling in their limited beliefs?
Well, one of the things is, if they're in the spirit realm and they have connected to the universal love, then they're usually without the old baggage. So if they do seem like they're carrying old baggage, then you might suggest that they connect to love. And there's a lot of really good healing techniques going on right now of embodied humans helping ancestors connect to love if they are still kind of in their old patterns. And there's also, if you can, be selective. Find the ancestor that feels like most loving, most connected to the universal, and then connect more to that ancestor and have that ancestor help the others. So hopefully that helps some.
I think so. We have a lot more questions coming
Yes,
in.
that's right. I won't go too far into each question.
No, that's okay. And I love that you did, because that's it's a really important question. And I apologize, y'all. I'm just trying to respond to some of you, but we will try to get to as many as we can. And hopefully we will have Jan back for another webinar or another gathering in the future if we don't get to all the questions. I love that there are so many. It's beautiful. Here's a question about how one finds an authentic shaman to help heal from childhood trauma.
Well, basically look at how they are themselves. Are they filled with love? Are they happy? Are they open to talking about not being perfect? So one of the things that's easy is if you find someone, a spiritual teacher, shaman, who says, this is the only way, you have to follow this way, you have to give me lots of money, you have to, well, quite frankly, you have to be sexual with me. That's a really bad sign. So you want someone who is very loving to themselves and sharing that love. So it's that idea of the fountain. If they are filled with love and they're expanding that and you just feel love around them, then it's probably a good match. But always check with yourself to see how you feel. And make sure that the power and the authenticity about who you are stays with you, not with them. Oh, and then the other thing is open to synchronicities. One of the things is set the intention, and then I have that happen all the time. I'll just, that's how I connected with shamani and stuff. It was like, I just had to, I wanted to expand more and connect with more people because I study psychoneural immunology, and, here's somebody that's been practicing it. And so it was just a synchronous experience. So open up to that, and then there's a guidance that can happen. I think that's the best thing to do, is just open up and, and stay aware that you want to feel good and that want to be helpful and loving. Good question. Very good question. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah. Diane has a question, which I don't mind answering, and I'm sure, Jan, you would too, like to add to it specifically from the shamanistic perspective. We have different folks that come to the webinar, some who are experienced healers, some who are just beginning to learn about the area. And the question here is it possible for us to do a healing on another person? Like long distance healing that can be done in other ways. Can this also be done from the shamanistic perspective? Is distance healing also a thing in shamanism?
Oh, absolutely. And again, citing the love fountain, what I like to do is to make sure that you're doing that healing as you increase the love in you, and then you send it out, and you send out that healing. So you heal yourself first and then send it out, because that's the main thing, is not sending your own energy to deplete. And also, that picture that I showed of, the conditional aspect of love, there can be conditional healing. And that's more subtle, but it's kind of like, okay, I want to heal. And that's basically what I experienced going back to Red Eagle. I wanted to heal him. I didn't want him to die. I wanted to heal him, and I had to let that go because that wasn't his path. So I just, with his grandfather's help, for sure, because I couldn't have done it on my own, I just stayed in the healing and I offered healing energy. And then it's just an offer of energy. And then, but that energy can so heal. And yes, I mean, Shamani could give you lots of examples. We can do distance healing and it really works.
Yeah, and let's talk about this just a little bit because it's very relevant and it relates to the last question about ancestors. I'll just share an experience, which I think I have shared with people previously on the webinar and even shown a picture of, which I can show again if I can find it, easily. But it speaks to these ancient indigenous practices and their understanding of consciousness, space, time, and the role of ancestors, not just in helping facilitate healing, but in being healed and healing the ancestral lineage. So very briefly, I'll share the story because I think it's really relevant. As we were filming for our documentary, The Energy That Heals, which Jan, I know you know about and have been championing. Thank you very much for all that you've been doing to support that work. We're very excited for that documentary to become soon next year. And we have really exciting activities planned starting this fall that are going to be leading up to that documentary. And I can't wait to share more with you all about it. But while we were filming for this documentary, we had the good fortune of filming one of the practitioners that serves on the Consciousness and Healing Initiative's Healing Practitioner Council. Her name is Grace Sesma, and she is a curandera. She gave us a beautiful interview on curanderismo and all of the ways that this beautiful practice has evolved over time and the perspective of that interconnection across space and time. Now, after we also filmed her doing a limpia, which is a particular practice of a cleansing, a spiritual cleansing that she did with one of our staff members, and we filmed. And I have to tell you, after watching this limpia, I just knew that I felt very burdened with many things. And I had asked her, I said, off the record, would you mind, do you have time to maybe do a limpia with me? I think I could really benefit from one. She said, sure. So, cameraman kind of took a break but my director was there, Christina, who you know. And as Grace was performing this limpia on me, she asked for my ancestors. And in this particular case, she asked for the female ancestors of my lineage to come and be present, not just to be present to guide the healing, but actually to be part of the healing. So this was a case where the cleansing was not just necessarily for me as this shamanic embodiment or even my field, but for the lineage. And what was wild about it was as soon as she brought them in, literally as soon as she called them in, this massive rainbow appeared, which neither of us saw, but Christina saw with her name right away. And she thought, what's going on here? Really interesting. And she pulled out her phone and snapped, a couple of pictures and showed us afterward. And we were amazed because she said it happened right when Grace called in the ancestors to be part of the healing. And then as soon as, she invited them to depart, the rainbow disappeared. And so relevant to that first question that we had about how do we invite our guides in, and what you were sharing, Jan, about the healing of your teacher, it is possible for us to work with spirit, it would seem, in a way that we can help facilitate healing for spirit, which of course many healers do, as well as spirits helping us. So very much a two-way communication, right? Sometimes we forget, and it's really, I feel like it's actually incredibly important, this work that you're doing with the spirit-human connection for healing all of us, because while we can do that and continue to heal the ancestral lineage, we realize that the trauma that I'm carrying is also ancestral trauma that has been being carried on for lineages. So as we heal our trauma, we're also having this opportunity to heal the lineage and literally rewrite the history or the herstory of humanity, which is critical.
Yeah.
Right.
And also I want to specifically talk about fears, because that's so huge. And that's, like I said, the example of how I was first healed. And the fear of trying to connect with spirits, the fear of what will happen and all, that's in our brain a reaction. And, so part of that is to do it with a lot of compassion and to really have a lot of acceptance. That's why, like I said, you can have different fountains, and acceptance is a huge, wonderful fountain to fill up. And to just be able to often, now I am a psychotherapist, so I do work a lot with the fears and the origin of it, which is oftentimes in childhood. So if you have fears coming up, you can see yourself as a child and just love that child and give that child permission. And oftentimes, and this is where I find that, the Native American, the indigenous people that I've worked with, the spirit animals, can be nice because you can invite a spirit animal in to be with your child self or a loving healing guide. And so one of the things is, I always recommend that you go forward with love and compassion and don't pressure yourself. Just do it slow and get support, talk with people, and have that experience and loving yourself, being really compassionate for yourself.
Well, Jen, thank you so much. I wish we had more time to answer all of these questions. Hopefully we'll have Jen back, but relevant to this, there are questions about, do you offer mentoring sessions? So please tell us a little bit about how people can be in touch with you, resources that you might have to share.
Okay, well, let me share this again. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And these are my books. That Dividing Worlds is a fantasy adventure that talks about a lot of the principles, but in a story form. And that was actually translated into Portuguese and published in Brazil, which is very thrilling for me. And then Dragon Magic, Amazing Fables for All Ages, are stories that were given to me by different animals and spirits. And in the back of the book are some stories about how I got the stories. And then there's an index. So if you have a particular issue you're wanting help for yourself or for children, you can go and find a story that fits. And then Celebrate Life is about my dad and his amazing philosophy. So those are available. And I am writing more, and I'm willing to share, some of the chapters from Psychological Shamanism with people because it's not published yet. I'm still looking if you know the right agent and publisher. And my current book I'm working with is I Will Go Gently, The Art of Dying in Good Health, which that deserves a whole webinar on its own. And then you can contact me. I'd be happy to email you back. I am a little slow on email, so but if you have questions, I'd be happy to help more. You can contact me. I do work with people individually and can help you find somebody for yourself. And I have a lot of free resources. There's handouts and more videos on my website, and I will continue to, on my blog, I was meaning to get it all done before this webinar to post more on the Love Fountain, but I promise if you sign up for my blog, I will get those postings on. And just thank you again, Shamini and all, for the opportunity to connect with people and very much to help people connect with Chi. So thank you to all my friends, colleagues who showed up today.
Yes, thank you. And thank you. If you're new to Chi, please do dive in and learn more. I'm sure Jason will be dropping a link to the chat so you can learn more about the beautiful nonprofit Consciousness and Healing Initiative. We have these beautiful Free Friday webinars with leading lights, and we've been so honored, Jan, for you to be part of it. We are all part of a big global family of human evolution change. And really, really grateful to know you, Jen, and really, really grateful for you to take the time today to connect with us. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for being part of this beautiful, beautiful dialogue today. Hope you have a wonderful weekend.